meeting tonight. Hey, are there, you want to do roll call first? Okay. Elise, could you do the roll call?
I'd be happy to. Commissioner Miyagi,
Here?
Chair Taylor is absent this evening. Vice Chair Gordon is absent this evening. Commissioner Shen. Present. And Commissioner Waltuck. Present.
Hey, thank you. Are there any agenda changes, additions, or deletions?
There are none at this time.
All right, thank you. And is there anybody in the public that would like to make comment on anything that is not on the agenda?
Yes, we do have one public speaker, Mark Weiss.
Okay, sir, if you come up, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Mark Weiss, and I live at 169 Bryant in downtown beautiful Palo Alto. And I come straight from a baseball game, so I'm sorry I'm wearing partisan colors. I'm actually a gun alum, as is Commissioner Waltuck. I should be wearing red and black. I'm wearing green. It's not pally green, but anyhow. I wanted to just remind us about a little more than 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago, Black Lives Matter. It was a big to-do all over our country, unfortunately. And in Palo Alto, I remember being very, very surprised living here in downtown Palo Alto, going on a bike ride during the COVID era. And I think I've only been here twice in the last 2 years because of the COVID, and appreciate you all coming out and doing this in person. I remember being really impressed that there were thousands of Palo Altans gathered at City Hall, Martin Luther King Plaza. Our mayor at the time, neighboring communities and mayors, the congresswoman was here, and everyone was saying about what we felt about Black Lives Matter. And then I was very, very pleased shortly thereafter to see and hear and learn that this body, the Palo Alto Public Arts Commission staff and volunteers and local artists, immediately went into action. And we had, I think it was 16 separate murals, a very unusual type of public art using the street. That's not our first choice usually for public art, but I was very, very impressed. I remember subsequently coming down here the day that the artists were installing the mural. I know at least two of you I saw that day. And I was incredibly impressed, and I hung out there for a little while. I also remember seeing Commissioner Nia Taylor, who's not here tonight, but I remember seeing her that day. And I met some of the artists. I probably overall, over the course of that summer or that several week period, probably met 10 out of the 16 artists and was generally very, very impressed. And I have something of a correspondence with some of them. I'll mention his name. I thought one of the highlights was Stuart Robertson, who's a Jamaican American who went to Stanford for his MFA. He did the last R. And a very impressive mural, and he had a combination of volunteers and sort of pseudo-professionals helping him. I could probably recognize, again, most of those names, and I can't quite recite them tonight. But I want to say, I wrote in my blog called Plastic Alto on WordPress, and I'm sure I sent a note to City Council, and I'm sure I sent maybe to some of your emails or to this commission, that I was very, very proud as someone who's lived in this community for more than 40 years. I've worked in the arts for 28 years. I'm married to a former arts commissioner. I was a candidate for this commission myself. And I was very, very proud of Palo Alto and the Palo Alto arts community to create that mural. And there's been some backlash. No one can make art that everybody appreciates. And I think the lawsuit by police members is very much unfounded, and we should stand our ground and say, it's art, that's art. We can't all agree on what art means. So I just want to salute you and tip of my green cap to y'all, and also to say Black Lives Matter still 2 years later.
Okay, thank you for all your comments.
Are there any other members of the public who are joining us remotely who would like to speak? If so, please raise your hand. I'm seeing none.
Okay, thank you. We'll go next to the approval of the minutes, and can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move.
Thank you. We have a second.
I second.
Thank you. Any at least deletions or additions to the minutes? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Yes.
And aye. The motion carries unanimously. And now the city official comments.
Excellent. So I do want to just start by letting you all know that we had 61 applicants for the Art Lift project. So we're really excited about that. The panel has done their preliminary review of 51 of them. Some of them were incomplete or not feasible. So still 51 is a lot. Thank you, Commissioner Waltuck, for serving on that panel. It's taking a long time to go through those, and we plan to convene next week. So stay tuned for details on the final 10 selected. And then, so we have a little bit of eye candy for you regarding Rios Magos's workshops he's doing with the community. He's been getting some really great response and hearing a lot from members of the community who just appreciate the opportunity to sit and make art and share their stories about some of what may be burdening them, some of what they find helpful, what are some of their rituals of resilience. And so he's hearing a lot about, I wish there were more opportunities like this. So that's been really rewarding. And he's gathering a lot of really meaningful feedback and information. And here is a picture of him at the Palo Alto Community Day, which took place last Sunday or 2 Sundays ago. But it was a great stream of people coming through. You can see there's a board to the right where he asked people about what is holding them together at this time. What kind of rituals do you find helpful? And you see the boxes on the table, and those will be distributed to the various libraries. And they have different questions on them so that people can answer them on a slip of paper, either anonymously, or if they wish to have a more in-depth conversation with Rios, they may do so. So we're getting some traction, and he's starting to build a following where he's having some more follow-up interactions with a number of people. He had a workshop last night with Kara, which is it's a grief support nonprofit, and they had 10 to 12 participants who didn't want to leave. They wanted to keep making art and sharing their stories. And so it's been really meaningful and incredible. So we're happy to share a couple of images with you at this time, but we will have more on social media as we get those permissions coming in. Okay, what do we have next? So you may recall, was it just last month? You all approved the funding to repair some of the foundations. This is on Movement 4 in front of Lucy Stern. You can see it is all fixed up. And then Albuquerque. So we extended that pad so that the mowers were not cutting so close to it and unintentionally causing some damage to it. So hopefully that will buy it enough protection. So we were able to move very quickly on those and get that done. And then the other item is that we do, of course, have an open call for the Coverley Artist Studio program for city subsidized studio space. It is not living space, it is working artist space. And the city is able to offer that in exchange for a certain amount of community service and the donations to the city collection that they give. So that will be open. Do you have a question?
How many spots are open, or does the whole thing turn over? How does that?
That's an excellent question. So each of the artists may get up to 2 terms. They're not guaranteed to be juried in their second term. So odds are in their favor, but we know that at least 10 studios will be opening up.
And is a term 1 year?
A term historically has been 4 years. So the ones who are terming out have been in those studios for 8 years, which, as you can imagine, causes some heartburn to have to give it up. but it's a great opportunity to allow more artists in. This will be the last year that we're offering a 4-year term. We are shortening them to 3 years after that. So the new artists who get juried in are made aware that the longest potential time they can occupy the studios will be 7 years. And then the next incoming class, it'll be 6. There's a lot of demand for the studio space. And it's also interesting to see the community that really builds there and how much collaboration happens over time. There are 22 studios. Great. And I think that's it. Do we have anything else, Nadia? We're good. That's it for staff
All
comments
right.
this evening.
Thank you, Elise. We'll now go into our action items, and the first one is the adoption of a resolution. And
I've been cut off. So as you all recall from previous months, this is the resolution that allows us to hold meetings in this hybrid format. There's no change from previous months.
Hey, any comment on this item? If not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
We need a motion and a second.
Oh, sorry.
I move.
Okay, we have a motion here
I second.
and a second. And then the motion passed unanimously. Okay, thank you. And the next item is a non-action item, is Castilleja School. And Elise?
Yes, thank you. We do have people who want to speak to this item. We're going to wait until after the presentation takes place, and then we will allow for public speakers. Hopefully you had a chance to look at the staff report. This is an initial review for public art and private development for Castilleja School. As you all may recall, this is not an action item, but it is an opportunity for the commission to review the project as it stands today and give recommendations as to locations of art, types of art that may be appropriate, things that the applicants may want to take into account as they move forward with their selection of an artist and their placement of artwork on site. So with that, we are joined by Mindy Romanowski and a number of the Castilleja team who will make a presentation to you about 10 or 15 minutes about the project, and then we'll take a pause and allow for public comment, and then allow for the commission to have discussion at that point. So with that, let's see. Mindy, are you out there?
Good evening. This is Nancy Kaufman.
Oh, Nancy.
That's okay. I'm the head of Castilleja School. And yes, Mindy Romanowski, our land use attorney, is with us, as well as Kathy Landecker, our associate head of school. And we have 2 members of our architect team, Pauline Souza and Natalie Kittner. So I'm going to kick us off. If you would allow us to share our screen, that would be great. While we're getting that set up, actually, Kathy Landecker would need to share her screen. And this is such a pleasure, honestly. I appreciate the chance to interact with the Arts Commission. I've lived in Palo Alto for 25 years, and I'm actually feeling I'm feeling disappointed that I haven't been more engaged in support of the commission, because I do think that we have extraordinary public art in our community. I actually have a 4-year-old grandson who enjoys it as well. So I just appreciate how accessible it is to the entire community. And let me just start by saying why art is also important to Castilleja School. So I'll start by just reminding everyone, which perhaps most of you probably know, we are still an all-girls school. We were founded in 1904 on Bryant Street and on the other side of Embarcadero. and 1907. And we moved to our current site on the Circle 1910. So clearly we've been there over 100 years. The mission has remained consistent but evolving, which is really to prepare young women to be leaders. It started out as preparing young women to be able to attend college. And from there, we've set our aspirations beyond college to thinking about how we prepare young women to really take their place as leaders in their communities in whatever way feels right to them. We currently have 422 students. Something that many folks probably don't know is that more than 65% of our students are people of color, and that over 20% of our students receive tuition assistance to attend the school. Our campus is just a little over 6 acres, and we, as our project that we've put forth, does involve preserving 2 buildings on campus, the historic gun administration building, as well as, in fact, we're doing some restoration really of that building as part of this project. And the most recently built building, which is our fitness and athletic center. So before I turn it over to the rest of my team, I just want to say that I was so pleasantly surprised to learn that we actually have this opportunity to collaborate with the Arts Commission on a public arts project. We actually have a nice history of working yearly with an artist in residence. That's been really important for us to allow our students to engage with artists who come onto our campus and explore, much like the project that you were describing earlier. What I'm hoping is that through our partnership with the city, that this artist in residence project, we may be able to open to other students beyond Castilleja. We often look to partner with other schools, in our nearby neighborhoods and nearby towns. It's not always easy to do for a variety of reasons, but we feel like this moment of creating public art with an artist collaborating with young people at a time in history where young people are so active and have so many emotions about this moment in time. It's really a great opportunity to build community among the teens who are battling these current circumstances. We need to give them a bright light into the future, and I think art can do that. So I will turn it over to my team, who will tell you a little bit about the project in general, and then also just where we're hoping to locate our art on campus, or really where we're hoping you'll give us feedback. We're pretty open to that, but we do have some ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, and good evening, Commission. Thank you for having us this evening. As Nancy said, I'm going to start off just by kind of grounding you in sort of the basics of our project, and then sharing with you some possible locations for the art. I know that you've already had an opportunity to see this presentation, so I'm not going to go through every slide in detail, but just want to give you some highlights. So first of all, we thought it was important to really ground you in our objectives for this overall project. And there are 3 primary objectives, as you can see: to modernize our campus, much of which is outdated and doesn't serve 21st century learning very effectively. To educate more young women for leadership. We feel, as a mission-driven school, there's never been a more important time for this. And then also to reduce impact on the sort of negative impacts, noise, traffic, that sort of thing. On the other hand, there are many positive impacts that we have as a school, both in terms of how we engage with the community and also our presence at this location for over 100 years. And public art is one of the ways that we feel we can really positively impact the Palo Alto community, and sort of in a unique position as we sit on Embarcadero. So I'll get into that in a second. One thing in terms of the aesthetic of the campus, which is something that I imagine you as an art commission can appreciate, is that we have worked very hard to design a building that really fits and sits beautifully in our neighborhood. You can see from these pictures that there are warm textures and colors, materials that sort of echo the traditional neighborhood without imitating it. And we think will be a wonderful contribution to the neighborhood just in and of itself. The other thing really to point out is that this building will really be at the forefront of sustainability. It's a net zero building, no gas, all electric, solar, bioswales, et cetera. So it's a very sustainable project in a city that really has been a leader in the country in that regard. So in terms of the site plan itself, on the left, you see our current site plan. And again, this is where our school has been since 1910. And on the right, you see the proposed site plan. And a couple of things that I wanted to point out is, again, on the right, the sustainability features, those blue panels you see on the top of the roofs are the solar panels that will provide energy to the building and maybe back to Palo Alto as we're able. And the second thing I wanted to point out is the circle, which has really always been at the heart of the Castilleja community, sort of in the same way the quads are often used on college campuses. It's actually a circular oval at Castilleja, and this has been part of our heritage since the school started, and something that obviously we want to retain in the new campus. The last thing that I wanted to share about the proposed site plan is that this is really something where less is more. The actual square footage, above grade square footage is actually less in the new plan than it is today. As you can see on the right, the building heights are actually going to be at a lower profile than they are today. And just in general, we've tried to pull the buildings back a little bit from the neighborhood to kind of give more natural space and, as it turns out, room for potential art between the school and the neighborhood, and sort of sharing that with the neighborhood. So you've seen this already, and I imagine that you'll have questions about it, but the purple is our locations that we have identified around campus that are potential areas for art and all sorts of art. I think the one of the things we want to mention is that we think, given the budget, the $850,000 budget, we would hope that we would have opportunities perhaps to have art in more than one location. But again, we will defer to you as to what you think is best. And we also could have opportunities to have more than one type of artistic expression and medium as we think about the art and how it sits on the campus in very prominent locations for the public. And then I'll go through these pretty quickly because you've probably seen them. This is the Embarcadero side of campus. It's really the entrance to our campus. This is the gun building that our head of school, Nancy Kaufman, mentioned. This building was built in 1910. We're very proud of it. It's a beautiful building and we think is a great contributor to the beauty of Palo Alto and Embarcadero. And this inset picture is designed to show you sort of the corner of Bryant and Embarcadero where this sits, and really that there's quite a bit of space there that we might want to think about in terms of locating art at our location. The other thing that we really like about this location is that, of course, the Palo Alto Art Center sits on Embarcadero as well, and there's some prominent art near that corner of Newell and Embarcadero, and we sort of think it would be a nice sort of complement or some way to sort of connect and beautify the Embarcadero corridor in a way that's in harmony with those installations. Then, of course, some other options are, this is the Bryant side of the school. This is also Bryant Boulevard. So as you would expect, we will have bike racks on this side. That's something that could be part of the art. Sculpture is a possibility. And I just show you as the inset, we have something that we refer to as the porch that faces out towards Bryant, and this might be a nice location for some public art. Then if we go to the Kellogg side of campus, this is actually the longest portion of the building. And as you can see, it's beautifully broken up with sort of different roof types and roof heights and windows and sectioning and materials. Also wanted to show you the inset here, which is a pickup and drop off location. And there's a driveway to the right that's kind of a turnabout that you can't quite see in this picture, but that might be an interesting location for a low line wall with some kind of, art appearing there, or possibly some sculptures on this side of campus as well. And then there's the Emerson side of campus, the last side of campus, and we will have an acoustic wall most likely on that side of campus. You can see the solar panels there. And again, we thought there's an opportunity for some interesting wall treatments, gates, and maybe some paving on the sidewalk, some interesting art there. So again, lots of opportunities. And again, we look forward to your input on what you think might be the best opportunities on our campus. So I'm now going to turn it over to Mindy Romanowski, our legal counsel, who has really held our hand through this process. Nancy mentioned that, it was news to us that we were fortunate to be able to be part of a public art process. Every step of this way has been new for us as a school, but Mindy, with her experience, has walked us through it. So I will now turn it over to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, commissioners and Elise, for your time this evening. And I will be brief because we want to get straight to the feedback of the public and your questions. This slide speaks for itself. I guess the one thing I will let you know is we've been at this for a while. Even before the public hearings, we did submit our initial application in 2016. And we're, collaborating and mediating and talking with neighbors and iterating our project to get to some of the images that Kathy just showed you. And then even as late as last night, around midnight, the Planning Commission did have its 10th hearing on our project. We did update the outcome slide here just to indicate to you this evening that the Planning Commission did clear us for City Council, and that City Council meeting is slotted for May the 23rd. They did the work they needed to do and forwarded their recommendations on to City Council. So we are really enthusiastically looking forward to going back before City Council and hopefully reaching our finish line. And then I guess very briefly, we understand what the ordinance says in terms of 1% of our construction cost being put towards this public art, whether it's one or many types of projects. And so I don't have to tell you what that covers, but here it is. And then you see our timeline. We're ready to get going. It's actually great timing, assuming we do get approval in May or potentially June of this year. We, plan to select our public art consultants this summer and move forward throughout next year to really hone in on the designs, of course, taking your feedback into account, come back before you, and then get ready to, commence construction and pull our permit for art. We know we need to get your final approval before we do commence that construction. And so the timing is listed for you here. And then I guess before we wrap this up, if you will oblige us, we have a 1 minute and 40-second video that I think is very instructive in terms of showing you the pedestrian experience as you walk around our campus. And particularly since we are really looking to get your feedback on locations and types of art. We think that this video, if you are open to seeing it at this point, will help you with that perspective. So we're going to push play and I will orient you. So we are flying over Embarcadero right now. To the right is our playing field. That white car was Embarcadero, driving down Embarcadero, and we're about to pass that area on Embarcadero that may be an opportunity for art. And very tucked in there, you could see a ramp going down into our below grade parking that's proposed. Here, we're turning the corner onto Bryant Street. And to the right, you will see the back of the historic gun building that Kathy spoke about. And then this entry area here on Bryant is another opportunity for art. And then we're going towards the Bryant porch Kathy alluded to. There are some green doors that have been a part of our campus, since I was even a student there. So they will be integrated, and I think we could draw from that. We can talk about that later if you have questions. And here we are about to turn the corner onto Kellogg. And what you will see here are a couple of other opportunities to potentially place some art as we turn the corner. I also, I think it's going to look back onto the building where you'll get a sense of some of the materials our architects have selected with feedback from ARB and members of the public, of course. And this is a drop-off area that you see here. We do have an existing drop-off area now, so we would retain it, but opportunities potentially for art here, of course. And then the video shows you this entrance area with some of the green tiling that was recommended by the ARB. It doesn't round the corner for the full side of campus on Emerson, so we can pull those pictures back up. And that is because the video was made before we came up with that acoustic wall Kathy showed earlier. That was a recommendation by the council that we explore preserving more trees, and parking at grade to do so required that acoustic wall. And so the video was not updated for that acoustic wall yet, but we do have those renderings that we can pull back up if you have questions. And again, we are really anticipating your feedback and welcome it. And if you have any questions, not only am I here, Kathy, Nancy, we also have our architecture team here from WRNS, and we can connect you with them as needed. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for the very informative briefing. Elise, do we want to take public comment first?
Yes, we do have a couple of in-person speakers, and I see one so far remotely. If there's anyone else who is logged in remotely who wishes to speak to the Castilleja item, please raise your hand. Let's see, we're starting with Mark Weiss is our first speaker, to be followed by Rebecca Eisenberg.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. I'm Mark Weiss. I live on Bryant Street, downtown North, and I won't be able to organize my thoughts in 3 minutes, so I'm going to also submit in writing a better argued version of this. But and my expertise is I've lived here a long time, and I would say I'm definitely familiar with 50 of our public art projects, and I know I've met roughly 20 of our artists, and I do follow this quite avidly. I've spoken to this commission, not this exact composition, but many, many times. And I'm just surprised that we're here tonight. And it's very premature and very awkward. Well, I would start by saying that I don't believe this is somewhat unprecedented, and the private percent for art program is relatively new, and much fewer of our public art pieces are in that category. And when I applied for commission, I believe I highlighted that I felt we should even review whether we even should have percent for art for private development. I think we should especially exempt Stanford Industrial Park, but that's a slightly different topic. But I want to start by saying you can't put part of your percent for art towards instruction of your students. That's unprecedented, and it'd be a misappropriation of funds. It's a side project, whether an artist who does art for a school also teaches, but I don't think you could put your percent for art towards instruction. And also, I think it's wonderful if there are artists from Castilla or any of our schools who are creating art full-time, post-graduation, post-college, but it's not appropriate to have student art as percent for art. And people say that. They say, oh, my kindergartner could create a fingerprint on the side of the police department building better than Peter Wegner, but it's a ridiculous statement. But I'm not sure if that's what they're saying, but I think this is a very divisive topic. If I said earlier in this public hearing or earlier tonight that I appreciate the Black Lives mural, even though white police people are suing the city about they're offended by the art, which I felt art is like that. It creates conversation and difference of opinion. I feel like Castilleja expansion is way more divisive. And I think, succinctly put, if people who promote this expansion say that Castilla is about co-education, people who object to it feel they're a bad actor, a bad neighbor, and elitist. And it's a bunch of millionaires and billionaires trying to push around the average person, even if they give $1 million commission to some artist. That being said, they might commission an artist of color like Lava Thomas. There's a woman named Cynthia Brandval who grew up here and is in the Museum of African Diaspora, or she lived here for a long time. But I just think it's an awkward place in the process. And I feel
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Thank you for your comments.
I feel, sir, if you let me finish.
Your 3 minutes, your 3 minutes are up, sir.
Yeah, so
All right,
is your
thank you very
term.
much. We have other speakers.
You
that would
can
like to speak.
summarily dismiss this project without further comment if you choose to. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker we have is Rebecca Eisenberg, followed by Barbara Gross.
Thank you so much. Here comes Castilleja, a wholly private school that has been in legal violation of its conditional use permit for almost 20 years, that promised in 2013 that it would not ask the city to renovate unless and until it came into legal compliance, which it has not done, and therefore it broke that promise. That pays millions of dollars to lawyers and spin doctors to create these videos and spread falsehoods about things like the environmentalism of their proposed development, which A, has not been approved by any of the commissions they list. In fact, last night, the Planning Commission nagged about half of it, and B, contains an underground garage that would take I don't know how many tons of concrete, which we all know is among the worst things for the environment, and that would host single-user cars owned privately by the teenage girls, and available only for the teenage girls who attend school to park. This is not a green development. In fact, Castilleja, as part of its development, intends to cut down dozens of trees, including ancient trees. Currently, to look at the Castilleja campus is to view beautiful trees, including several ancient trees, and that is as beautiful an art as anyone could ask for. Yet here's Castilleja that intends to tear out these trees, which cannot be replaced, no matter what spin doctors say, and replace it all with high walls, keeping out the community. Because Castilleja never, not 1 hour of any day, of any week, of any month, not any special occasions, Castilleja never opens its doors to the public. Never. And here, what gall of Castilleja to ask for an exemption for 1% of its development fee, of its development cost, which according to its own website that cites its own capital campaign of $100 million. You know, if Castilleja raised $100 million for this development, it now says it's worth only $85 million. So here Castilleja, and that doesn't include the huge gift rumored to have been given by John Arriaga, may he rest in peace, which has not apparently been reneged by his children. But here's Castilleja that gives nothing, not one thing to the community. It is a private school that it admits only a small percentage of applicants, of which it's very proud. And those applicants, 80% of those applicants pay full fare of almost $60,000, $60,000, $60,000 a year. 80% pay full fare. This is not a public serving entity. Anyway,
Thank you,
please
Ms.
don't exempt them
Eisenberg.
from their one.
Thank you for
one
your
requirement.
comments. Next speaker,
Thank
please.
you.
Our next speaker is remote. It's Barbara Gross, and I see no other speakers after her.
There's only two people there. Why do you let people speak? What do you think you are, Ben?
Hi, this is Barbara Gross. I'm speaking here to express my excitement and gratitude about the exciting investment in public art in Palo Alto. Castilleja's proposal to modernize the campus is an important investment in the city's educational infrastructure. The school's desire to educate more students without increasing traffic will continue to further Palo Alto's ideals as a community committed to opportunity and education. The plan to preserve heritage trees and plant over 100 new trees on a net zero sustainable campus place, Castilleja is at the forefront of organizations working to further Palo Alto's sustainability goals. Now this proposal to add public art to the perimeter of the modernized campus is another substantial way that this project gives back to the city of Palo Alto and supports the public good. I'm especially excited about the school's proposal to install public art along Embarcadero Road. In combination with exhibits and installations at the Palo Alto Art Center just down the road, this new addition of art from Castilleja will transform Embarcadero Road into a beautiful boulevard that will enhance our community. I am also very excited about the collaborative and educational approach that Castilleja has outlined in their proposal, creating an opportunity for students from different schools across Palo Alto to work together toward a common goal and engage with highly regarded artists is another way that this project benefits the greater good. I am eager to see how the next generation of Palo Altans works together with world-class artists to create a gift to the city we can all share. I hope that this project will be easy to greenlight, and I know it will beautify our city, unite our students from different schools, and continue to put Palo Alto on the map as a community with outstanding public art. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Gross, for your comments. Next speaker.
We do
And a
have
reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak.
We have one more speaker. I see a phone number ending in 476. I ask you to please introduce yourself and give your name and spelling. Thank you. You're muted.
Okay.
There you are. We can hear you
Can
now.
hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, okay. My name is Eva Gavrielov, and I'm an artist here in Palo Alto. And I'd like to talk about how excited I am about the new public art that is planned as part of Castilleja's renovation and modernization. Castilla has long supported the arts with a vibrant on-campus gallery space, and also with an ongoing artist in residence program. Now, an artist in residence program is very exciting and very important for artists because it lets them, it gives them an opportunity to step away from their regular setting and routines and to find a new inspiration in their creativity. Especially residencies that partner with schools are especially valuable because they offer the next generation of young people the opportunity to collaborate with someone who is a little different than their own, their natural environment, especially in our community where STEM fields and careers are emphasized. Seeing someone who has made a different choice can be life-changing and eye-opening. So that's why the proposal about the Castilla gives an opportunity to young people to learn different ways of thinking. Public art projects bring also civic engagement to education. So this is the mission of the school, to engage people in civic engagement and art. But I think it's also a vision of Palo Alto to help students understand the enrichment of community engagement and community art starting from a very early age. That's it. Thank you for your work to support the Palo Alto community.
May I ask you
And,
before, you
yeah.
finish, can you please spell your name?
Yeah, it's spelled Eva, E-W-A, and last name is Gavrielov, G-A-V-R-I-E-L-O-V.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for,
Thank you.
thank you very much for your comments. And no other public
you.
speakers, Elise?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll go to commissioner comments. But before we do that, Elise, if you would kind of go over the guidelines of the public art and private development ordinance.
Yes, so just a reminder, this is not an action item. This does not require a vote, but is simply an opportunity for the commission to weigh in on the artwork, the artist selection process, types of artwork that might be appropriate, staying out of matters having to do with the architecture itself, or of course, the purview of other governing bodies. So really sticking with the artwork in this case, because it is an initial review and there are quite a few locations called out. I recommend the commission give some feedback on some of the perhaps higher impact locations and things to think about there, as well as potentially helping the applicant team potentially eliminate some of them as less successful options. And yeah, so that's it.
All right, thank you very much, Elise.
Yep.
And commissioner comments? Lisa?
Actually, Elisa, I have one more question. I'm just looking at the public art and private development program from our website. And I think in the starting point, it says how to get started. And the first thing is to meet with the public art program within 60 days of the planning intake meeting and application to the planning department. And, to get details about the type of work and whatnot. If I'm getting this correct, this is an issue of first impression for me. I have not heard about this before. So was there a step that was missed before this initial review?
So there was an initial meeting with staff, with
Okay.
planning staff and public art commission staff and the applicant team a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, to go through the process, how this works, what their options are as far as hiring an outside art consultant, contracting with staff to do that, or to go independent. So we did go through all those options at that time.
Okay.
I think the applicant team has been pretty busy with some changes and iterations of the project. And they're just now getting around to looking at the public art process. So we received their formal application last month.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions, Lisa?
Yes, I have a few comments. Thank you very much, Castilleja, for putting together such a comprehensive plan, and the visuals were extremely helpful to us, even though we're familiar with the surroundings. I wanted to make there seems like there's a lot of opportunity that you've outlined as potential places for art. I do love the idea of utilizing the space that is right on Embarcadero, because it will benefit the community, as that is such a thoroughfare for Palo Alto getting to and from 101 and into the city. I think it's a golden opportunity for Castilleja and the city to work together. And I appreciate that the historic building is also there. And I like the idea of thinking about something that will read from both sides. So what's just coming to mind is the OEO sculpture that's in front of the Anderson Gallery at Stanford and the Brooklyn Museum in New York. That it's, that has kind of a humorous element, but it can be read on both sides. And perhaps thinking about tying in the historic nature of the gun building and doing something that can be related to that, but seen one side and then interpreted in maybe a different way from the other side. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to play with, multi-sided or two-sided artwork, also that you can see through, so you're not going to block anything, but it will be constructed in a way that you can still see the school and the school can see out to the street.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Sinya, any comments?
Elise, maybe I'm just trying to get the chronology of information correctly. I think Mark had a comment that the 1% program, the contribution program, this actually got started in 2014. So this is a program that I think people have taken advantage of to help beautify the city of Palo Alto, and we're very proud of the program. And I just want to make sure I understand. So you said that earlier in the initial intake meeting, there were discussions about engaging a public art consultant. And I think I heard it from the attorney. They mentioned that at some point, they're thinking about engaging a public art consultant. So in my previous experience, the way I understand it is usually there's a consultant that would come and say, we looked at these sites, here are a few different things we're looking at proposing, and this is what the visual would look like. And today what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a video of maybe the grounds, but it's pretty open-ended. And so, are we going to have an opportunity where the consultant would come and say, this is what we're thinking about looking like? So we as commissioners can say, okay, is this giving the public accessibility, 40 hours? Is this integrating well into the environment? I think usually those are the type of comments that we make.
Yes, thank you for the question. I think that's a really excellent point. The applicant team has indicated in their presentation tonight in their packet that they plan to bring the consultant on board this summer to begin their design development. I think your point is well taken, that before they put together a final review packet with everything all done, that perhaps the commission wants to ask them to come for an interim review once their consultant is on board and they have a little more of a solid grasp on which areas they're going to concentrate on and what direction they're going, to get feedback from the commission prior to moving further. We have had other applicant teams who have come to do an informational or an interim check-in in a very similar case where they didn't have their consultant on board at the initial review. So that would be well within your purview to request that of the applicant.
Any other comments?
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa?
I also really love the idea of involving the artists in residence and the students from Castilleja. I think that that can really, again, bring some youth into being involved in public art and what's happening with the school. I think there's a good example that was recently completed at Stanford where they had students on the commission to do the public art in the engineering department, all the spheres. I don't know if people have seen that. It was just recently installed. It's an outstanding exhibit. And I think it would be worth talking to the people that organize that in terms of how to involve students, how to look at evaluating art. I think will be a great educational opportunity. And I think they were quite systematic in the way they did it. I went to a presentation recently where the students really spoke about the process, and it was incredibly impressive how they went about it. So I think that's a resource in your own backyard. And I'm happy to provide some context for that if that would be helpful.
That's great. If you wanted to send me a link to that, I can forward it to the applicant team.
Hey, thank you, Lisa. Any other comments? One comment I have is this is the initial review and we've gathered some facts and as Lisa said, it's a very good presentation and where they outline where there's possible public art locations. But I think now in consultation with staff that they're going to hire a public art person to help facilitate this. So I really look forward to what that person has and when they come forward with their next review, what is there. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Elise, an additional question for you. So I don't know how formal or how concrete this is. I think in the previous projects that we have helped shepherd, there may be serial meetings or reviews. So I don't know if we need to have an additional review after the consultant has proposed something and, there's something for us to sort of give some comments on, because I think it is really open-ended for us to say, well, these are the type of material you should use and this is the corner you should go by, because it's really just a blank slate for us. On the comment about engaging public, I think we have many examples of how we have engaged public collaboration in some of our short-term and long-term projects. And maybe we can share how we have engaged the public in some of those activities so that I think it's framed in a public art context rather than and I think there's a slightly different angle in how you educate from a public art context versus from a internal school project context. And we just want to make sure that we're framing it correctly.
Thank you, Senya. And I echo your comments there very much that I think to get the community, the neighborhood involved would be a very important part of that, to get some ownership from the community into that public art that's going into that school. I think that's a very important component of that project. Hey, any other comments, Lisa?
I'm wondering if Castilleja has considered any thematic approach. So, the buildings are going to be very, very environmentally friendly. You talked about use of many different materials. You talked about other considerations about moving the school away from the streets more. The circle, the historic context of the circle, the historic context of the school. There's so many opportunities to think about different themes that might help guide your art. So I just want to plant the seeds of thinking about that in a way that makes it cohesive. So you could, and that will give you kind of a overall guiding direction, I think, if you thought about that. And that would make it easier for artist selection and student and neighborhood and city involvement as you honed in on a particular idea or theme.
That's a really great question and a really great point, especially the part where you said, how might that influence your choice of an artist? I think the first step for us is to engage with a consultant who could help us develop some answers to the question that you've posed so that we do engage with the right artist. And I also think, when we talk about student engagement, that can take so many forms, including guidance from an artist about design and materials. And I want to just emphasize that, of course, the expectation is that the role of the students is not one that we would expect would detract from an art installation that we would expect would get full approval from this group on the basis of its artistic integrity. But I do appreciate the idea of thinking about how might we reinforce the themes of our building through and the message that our building will send. How might we reinforce that through the art? It's a great place to start. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Hey, thank you, Castilla, for your presentation. Thank you to the speakers, and I look forward to your next review process that's going to happen.
May I ask a quick clarification question? Because I heard some discussion about requesting that the applicant team come back after they have got their
I would
sort of a
certainly
more
recommend
of an
that.
art plan involved. Is there agreement among all three of you that that is the direction you would like to give the applicant?
Yeah, I think we need to have clarification and a clear understanding that the public art, this is for the public. And it's really intended to work well with the surrounding, which is the context of the school. But it's really for the enjoyment of the public. It needs to be accessible to the public, and we need to study that project from that context. I think we have, set the story, the grounds of the story very well. For purposes of this conversation, it was certainly very informative for us to understand how much heart and effort you have put into this big overall project. We as a commission are looking at it only from the public arts angle. So we like to have the second session to be focused on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm so glad you made that distinction, because something that, perhaps I wasn't as clear about is, when I raised the idea that we have some experience working with artists in residence, didn't mean in any way that I expected that we would apply, credit for the use of these funds in a manner that replicates a program that we already have. I only meant to suggest that I believe this is an opportunity to have public art that in some way authentically engages and represents this moment in time for our youth who are part of our public, meaning I don't see it as, a Castilleja project. It's a public art project that is funded by Castilleja as part of our project. Does that distinction help?
Yeah, I think if you amplify that, I think that could be very powerful.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for, pointing that out. I appreciate it.
But at the same time, I would say, because you do have some history of an artist in residence and students that are interested, I think that that could be an added component. So it's not that we're asking your artist in residence to look at the public art, but perhaps they could be somewhat involved, or the choice of that person at that time has some relationship to public art. Or I just see this as a very rich potential for collaboration with what you've done as a school and what you're now doing with and for the city.
Thank you. That you said it better than I could have said it. That was really exactly what I hoped to convey, that what we've learned through this process of working with artists, we think could benefit our community at large. And that is certainly our goal. The next generation needs to, first and foremost, learn about the importance of public art, understand the purpose of it, and then be involved in the process in a way that reflects our community.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, thank you all. It was a good discussion, and I look forward to the next review process with Castilleja. Hey, are there any commissioner questions, comments, announcements, or future agenda items? Okay, none. And the next meeting is May
19th.
19th?
I think.
Okay.
I do have one item for Monday. The work plan that everybody worked so hard on is going to council on Monday evening. So I will be joined by Chair Taylor, and there's really not opportunity for presentation, unfortunately, because there was a large agenda item that got moved to Monday evening. So it's going to be a fairly brief conversation. But if any of you are available to join us either remotely or in person, it would be great to have you here too.
All right, great. So that will be finally going to council. All right, thank you. Any other items? All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.